And you also wrote about Russell Gage's emergence, coming at such a critical time, especially after he had a little bit of an inconsistent start. But with weapons like Pitts and Patterson, what led to him getting more looks?
I think it wasn't even more looks. I think it was just him getting healthy. He busted up his ankle in week 2 against Tampa Bay. He actually looked like he injured it twice in that game, missed the next 3 games, came back after the bye, and it was very hit or miss after that. And teams really started to kind of try and take him away. He had 2 out of 3 games at one stretch where he didn't catch a pass, which for a number 1 receiver, even though he wasn't supposed to be the number 1 receiver because of Calvin Ridley most people thought he was going to be here, but now he is. That's unacceptable for a number 1 receiver. However, in the last month or so, he's been more involved in game plans. And that's been pretty clear because teams are taking away Kyle Pitts. Teams are starting to figure out how to defend Cordero Patterson. And the Falcons are using Patterson more as a true running back than as the running back wide receiver hybrid that he was being used at more earlier in the season, although they're still using him in that role somewhat. So opportunities have been there for Gage, and it is coming at a good time for him, if not for the Falcons as well, because Russell Gage is a free agent after this year. And if you would ask me a month and a half ago, I would have been like, oh man, Russell Gage has to go somewhere on a prove it deal because of how poorly he was playing. Now with the way he's been playing the last 4 weeks, he might be playing his way into at least a decent contract, whether that's in Atlanta or elsewhere come March or April.
Do you see him staying with Atlanta?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I say that because they have so many guys that they need to try and either re-sign or areas they need to fill. When you look at their roster, literally every position is a question mark at this point, from quarterback, which is what's going to happen with Matt Ryan either this year or do they start to figure out the future beyond Matt Ryan, all the way down to long snapper, Stephanie, where Josh Harris is an unrestricted free agent. But understand, most long snappers end up on 1-year deals. I would be surprised if Josh Harris wasn't back. But, I mean, that's the breadth of what they're dealing with. Right now, they have going into next season, minus futures contracts guys and minus exclusive rights free agents who basically they have right of first refusal. So, and most of those guys would be back. They have 27 guys on what would be a 90-man preseason roster. So they have holes to fill everywhere. And that includes the receiving core where next year the only guys under contract are Calvin Ridley and Frank Darby. Frank Darby, who barely scratches any sort of playing time as a receiver. I think he maybe ran a route or 2 last week in the blowout, and that's the only time he gets. So all of that is to say maybe, because it's going to matter on whether they feel that Russell Gage's emergence here later in the season is more of a sign of things to come versus a guy just kind of like, oh man, I need to make money in a contract, and B, whether or not they can afford him, because they have all these guys they need to figure out, including Cordero Patterson, including Younghoe Koo, who's a restricted free agent, Foye Oluokun, who's a major piece of their defense. Everywhere they've got questions, and Russell Gage might just, by process of elimination and maybe by cost, not fit into those plans because they have so many holes to fill and only so many dollars to play with because of massive contracts to Matt Ryan and Grady Jarrett and Jake Matthews, among others.